Yo, what is up, people of Earth? Welcome back. So, today we are going to be talking about spectrums where dualities are said to exist. Now, I want to talk about duality real quick because I've made it clear in the past, but I've never made a real video about it or anything like that. So, what I want to say about duality is just to explain it real quick. Dualities do not exist inside of nature. Okay? So, out in the world, you open your eyes, you see around the world, nothing is a duality. Now, you could be challenging this in your head, and I hope you do, because this is where the philosophy starts to come through. Okay, so the dualities do not exist except for it's a human construct. So that's right, humans create a duality. So when you have two different things, and you are, when you're, comparing one with the other, what you're doing is creating a duality. And that's all. That's the only time a duality exists. Everything else would happen to be just as a function. And if you want to call that a coincidence, I wouldn't call it a coincidence. But if two functions just so happen to have the same result, well, that's one way to, I guess, look at it. But I'll tell you here, for dualities to exist, that means they have to be an abstract of a human idea. So dualities don't exist. Now, dualities do exist if a human creates it. If, it's in the eye of the beholder. But it's only in comparison to another thing. Now, I want to introduce the concept of dualities as, instead of being one or the other, being a spectrum instead. And no, I'm not trying to get into any stupid political SJW bullshit. No political correct here. This has nothing to do with politics. This episode, anyway. Well, at least right now. I can make no guarantees. But I digress. Which is what we're famous for doing here, is digressing. So I would like to consider some things that were typically considered a duality, like, do you take this or that? It's more apt for a spectrum. Now, a spectrum will require, a lot more complex thinking is involved to understand things as in a spectrum view, rather than a B, left, right, black, white, whatever kind of view. So with the spectrum, you have a lot of areas, that some areas can overlap from each side. It's kind of abstract to think about what I'm trying to say, because what I'm thinking, what I know here is abstract in an abstract thought, but to get it out in words is kind of difficult. So I'm hoping that you're able to somehow follow along, and that's what the comments are for too, if you have questions or anything like that. But dualities only exist in our, we make up the dualities. They don't exist. We do it for reasons, for reasons. Say you're shopping for something, right? Or say say you have a task that you need to, buy a product for. You form these, like you get a couple products together and you create these, dualities or whatever, which is like, okay, well, I need, and the duality isn't, I'm choosing two different products necessarily. No, the duality is like, okay, I need this to do this. It absolutely must do this. Okay. And then, but I don't necessarily, I could live without that, like, that's the duality. That is the duality. Now you can have multiple points of this, and some things will be help, some things will be a detriment, some things you'll have to some things you're gonna need to have that product or whatever your purpose is to be fulfilled. It has to be able to do this. Or the duality would be against that, would be like, okay, I can live without it. I don't necessarily need that. But on a spectrum now, you have it like, well, I don't need this, but this is connected to that, which I definitely do need. So now we have to include that in the things that I need. So part of it I don't necessarily need, but I do need the greater function of that smaller function to come along with it, because it's apparently a package deal. So now that's a spectrum. See how we're able to slide a spectrum? I'm hoping this is making sense to you, because it really makes so much, it's so clear in my head, but it's hard to fucking get it out in words. This is I think it's some seriously abstract stuff. And, who am I? I'm just, I'm a guy who lives in a, somewhat middle class neighborhood, and I'm trying my best to take care of my son, and live my life. And, I don't have any great accolades behind me. I don't have any, besides having a child, of course. That's my biggest contribution to society, and I think that's an important task that I'm taking on. So I'm trying to teach my son to be as wise and smart, and as analytical, so he can problem solve as well. But and I'm hoping that he becomes the gift to the world that that's the only thing I'm able to give is a child to grow up to be something that's like important or something. That's what I'm modeling my parenting style off of, which is, for the most part, very stoic in most aspects. I have to be very stoic, which is, I think that's a good thing, though. I think we need more stoicism in America specifically, because, we got a lot of girly men out there, guys who fucking, you brush up against them and they're offended, but that hurts them, and they're still like, oh my God. I think some people call them soy boys, I guess, because they drink a lot of soy, so they're full of estrogen. I drink a lot of beer, and that's estrogen there too. But that just only adds a little spare tire type thing, which is pretty much gone from me anyway. So I guess I can prove that wrong. But not everybody can do that, because I have a very active lifestyle, I guess you would say. I ride a bicycle professionally, sort of. Besides this, but I digress. Anyway, wow, we've digressed into the forest so deeply. Now I'm not even sure where we came off of the trail. So let me think about it for a second. I took out my compass. I'm looking around, and I'm holding my compass out. Ah, yes. We were talking about spectrum. So dualities are more or less a spectrum. So I think it's just a natural progression here, but you would start out, obviously, coming up with a duality, because that's simple, just having an A-B kind of thing, the left-right, the black-white, or whatever, but that's a contrast, that's a stark contrast. But we need to also include, if we include our thoughts to think about this being more of a spectrum, rather, having the A and B as being like the furthest or the deepest of the contrast, the most of the divergence between the two, and then we have a blend of the two. We have the blend in between, the gradient, if you will. Or the mix, which in the middle is a perfect blend of the both of them, like a fairly balanced inclusion of both, because we have a lot more complex problem solving to do, I guess, as a society, as a civilization, humanity itself. I mean, whether you think about something as silly as us going to Mars or living on, first of all, we'd have to move on. Let's move to the moon first, like where it's close. Like you don't just send your kid off to like a foreign college unless you're a foreigner, and then they're coming to America. But if you're an American, you don't send your kid off to a foreign country for college. You know what I'm saying? So you keep it close. You keep them close first. Make sure that they're good enough to live on their own. And if they want to move that far away eventually, then fine. If you want to move to Mars after you learned how to live in space on the moon first, which is really pretty close in comparison, so we can get you some emergency assistance much quicker. Plus, being able to have much better communication and all that stuff by being so much closer. Now, that's if you believe that the moon isn't made out of cheese. Anyway, that's a different subject for a different day. But think about dualities now as a spectrum. Spectrum. And no, I'm not talking about the cable company, the cable monopoly company. I'm talking about thinking about, from one to the next, there's going to be a blend in the middle. Like I said, if you're looking for a product, for instance, you have an you build this kind of duality, which is like the most extreme of what you're looking for, and the most extreme of what you're not looking for. That would be one, I guess, duality or spectrum that you could create. So anything that you can consider a duality, you can more or less come up with a spectrum for that duality, which would be a gradient or a blend or a mix, of the A or the B or whatever. So again, like you're buying that product and you're like, okay, what I'm buying needs to be able to do this, and it doesn't necessarily need to have that function, but then there's going to be a case where it's like, I don't need this one function, but it's attached to another. It comes as a package with another function. So I need that other function. So as a result, I need both of the functions. So now it's the new, you know what I'm saying? Like, so now, there is a duality here, but, or not a duality, I'm sorry, but a spectrum. You see what I'm saying? So it's food for thought for you, I guess. So anyway, I wanted to do a shorter one today. So, what do you guys think? Let me hear you below. We'll talk the talk, walk the walk, and remember, guys, share me, like me, sub. That's the best way to help me out, guys. Is to share my stuff a little bit, or actually just watch it all the way through, or listen to it all the way, and then possibly like it if you liked it. If you didn't like it, I'm sure I'll hear from you. But either way, yeah, good times. All right, we'll talk to you soon then. And you guys all be good. Love thy neighbor, and peace be with you.